Hello, everybody. We are live again with another day of surviving quarantine by spreading life. And I'm excited to have Jeremy here. Jeremy is the owner or the founder of
Yeah.
WorkChaplain. And so I met you actually online at LinkedIn is actually how we connected.
Yeah.
And we just talked and we have a lot of similarities with our thinking on how the soul needs to be connected in with the full holistic health model. And so
Sure.
I'm excited to have you here to kind of speak on that. So before we get started, I do want to encourage everybody to please like, subscribe, and share. The more people that get to see this, the more positivity we can bring to your news feed instead of seeing some of the negativity that just seems to be crowding it lately.
Yeah.
And what we will be talking is soul check. And do we even need to have a soul check, and what's the importance of it? So before we get started, Jeremy, if you'll quickly introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi there. It's great to be with you, Emily. I'm Jeremy Johnson. I am the CEO and founder of WorkChaplain. We're a brand new startup that, our big thing is soul checks. We want to go into workplaces and the marketplace and be there. And we believe in just what you were talking about, the holistic health spectrum. And so we believe that spiritual care is on that spectrum and is important, especially as we go through times like this. So it's great to be with you. I've heard some of your other ones, and I'm honored that you asked me to be on.
Well, thank you. And I'm glad that you wanted to join too. So my first question for you is, one, what is a soul check? If we could even slightly define it.
Sure. I think the soul is something that is intertwined in you. It is something that everyone has, and sometimes we don't tap into that. We always think about mental health and we think about physical health, but that soul is so important to our not only our own individual lives, but also our families, and it's the core of who we are. It's really our core values, our core conviction, and for many people, it's different. It's not the same for everyone. For me, I tend to lean a little bit more. I profess to be a Christian, and so I know where that core and that root is. For other people, it may be something else. And so I believe that this is a great time for us to really embrace the pause. And I actually wrote about that today, that to embrace the pause that we're experiencing right now and really reevaluate everything that's going on in our lives. And for me, it starts with the soul. It starts with the heart and issues of the heart. It's the way I am leaned. I lean one way or the other. So for me, it's so important to right now reevaluate and reassess where, my soul is at.
Mm-hmm.
Check up time.
I think one thing that I hear on that too is it's a lot of your core values and your core purpose. And it's kind of it's your driving compass that can really determine a lot of things in life, if you really think of it, like even a lot of your issues that you may have with other people or your spouses right now is coming from a soul check kind of aspect of it.
Sure.
So how are some ways that people can realize what their core values are or what their soul is even saying?
For me, it took quite a while to figure out what I believed in and what my core values were. I knew what I believed in, as far as theologically, but really about my purpose and my goals in life. And I'm still discovering those, and even in my 40s. So, for me, it's trying to take time to be alone, get away from the noise. And this has been a great time to do that. We understand that people are hurting, people are suffering right now, but to be honest with you, this is the best time that we could ever have in the history of our world. This is the only time in our lifetime that we've experienced a complete and utter pause.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to take advantage of that. What can we learn from it? And I think some of those things is our attitude and how those things rise to the surface. How do we react to stress? How do we react to tragedy? How do we react to things that we don't like? How do we act to crazy kids that are in our house? All of those things that I've seen on social media, and it runs the gamut from a person that's lost a loved one to a person that has just experienced stress in their life. People are hurting, people are suffering. So this is the time to breathe, relax, and say, where do I need to be in my life? What's the future look like? Because I believe that the normality of our life is probably going to look a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is a great time too. Like you said, it is to rest in the pause, or kind of give that pause for the second. And so people were like, "Well, I'm too stressed to even think about the pause."
Yeah.
Like, if you look at my house, I got this, 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 and this. And so, one thing that I want to talk about is using your core values as a lens. I call it the apple test. And so, because it's actually called celery test, but I hate celery. So, but it's like, you say you go to the grocery store and your core value, or at that time, it's to live a healthy, prosperous life. What would you have if you had an apple, a bag of chips, and a soda? Like, you could easily pick what you want. So how can people use their core values to help solicit the future?
Yeah.
How can they do that?
That's a great question. For me, I believe that, I look at it rather than, what did you say? You said a lens, right? I look at it as a filter.
Yeah.
I run all of my core values, even as a company with WorkChaplain. If it doesn't run through the filter of our core values, then we won't be doing it. And so that's the same thing individually. If it doesn't run through your core values, whatever you've set for your life, then I don't want to have anything to do with it. I don't want to even waste my time with it. So for me, faith is a huge core value in my life. Loving others, and really those principles that I learned growing up in my home, and some others might not have, but whatever principles that you've been instilled with in your life, and the things that you've picked up even as an adult, those are the things that you run that through the filter and say, if this is the next step for my life, does it meet these standards? Does it run through the filter? And if it doesn't, then I don't do it. It's that simple. It's pretty simple.
What about people that may have doubt in their own soul? Like, they can't even know how to love themselves because they can't love others. But then at that aspect of it too is like, how can you love your own soul? Or like, and you have this doubt and this thought process with it.
That's a great question. I think right now I'm seeing that more than I've seen in a long time, because we're going through uncertainty, and uncertainty puts pressure. It's like a pressurized, it either comes out as a diamond or it's a coal, right? That whole thing. But the pressure can make us into diamonds and can make something really beautiful out of it. But I think there's so much doubt right now, and so much anxiety. There's fear. And I believe that we have to really lean on the things that are true and the things that really matter in our life. I had a friend of mine tell me, one time, he said, don't forget the things that are true in your life. And what are the things that are true in your life? Well, we know that, God is good, that God is real, that God is in control. Those are some of the things that we can lean on during these times of doubt. Even when we're going through doubt, it's tough. But one of the things that I've experienced, when I've gone through hard times, or heartbreak, or just a tragedy, one of the things that I find that has really helped me out is serving others. Through that time, it takes the eyes off of me. It helps me understand that other people are going through maybe even harder times than I am. And for us to do that, it really takes stepping outside of ourself. Because I think we live in a world, in a country, that we're all about iPhone, iPad, everything, right? Even I heard somebody say one time, even the Wii, remember the Nintendo Wii? It had two eyes in it. So when we think about that, it takes the eyes off of ourself and it puts it on others. And when we serve others, we can really see. What people are made of, but we can also see what God is made of. And I believe that God is reflected more in us when we serve others than ever before.
Oh, I love that. And I'm big on my faith on Christianity, but for people that may be like, let's I don't have a God, like I don't believe in any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's harder for me to say, like, put your weight on something else. That's just difficult for me. But for people that feel like, hey, this thing is not real. How
Sure.
can you help people understand that putting down your burdens, laying down that stuff so that somebody else can carry it for you that's a
Yeah.
bigger and greater? How would you explain that to them? Because you're a
Yeah.
work chaplain. You
Sure.
work not just with people of Christian faith, you literally work with people of all faiths, all beliefs, or non beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And our biggest thing that we talk about all the time is leading with love. Love, leading people with, into love and with love. And no matter your background, no matter your religious belief system, no matter your theology or lack of theology or whatever it is, we don't even talk about those words. We don't talk about religion. We don't talk about theology. We talk about, hey, how are you making it through from point A to point B? And so for us, that's so important. We lean on that leading with love because it's universal. It's a core value that everyone should have, right? What's the opposite of love? It's hate, wouldn't it? I mean, that would be the opposite of love. So no one wants to lean into hate. So we want to lean into our love of others and love of our families. And once again, it's getting back to those things that matter and things that we know is true. And one of the things that we know is true is normally our family loves us. Our spouse loves us if you're married. So those things, we need to get back to the basics of those things. And the other thing I would say is we want to ignite hope in others. We talk about that a lot. And of course, you and I know where that hope comes from. But for others who don't believe that way, there's still hope for them. Their life is not over. And I've seen alarming statistics right now with the suicide rate as people are in quarantine, also with domestic violence. I just want to encourage people that are watching this today, no matter what you believe, there's hope. There's hope for you. Really, that's my purpose in life and my calling in life, if you want to say that, is to ignite hope in other people. And so I believe that everybody has value. Everybody is essential. We've heard that word bantered around a lot. But everyone is essential. Everyone matters. And for us to really give people that hope, we have to encourage people. We have to be positive. All of those things matter. And I think if we do those things, we're going to see lives changed, and we're going to see people go from that spectrum of not having any hope in anything to having hope. We're going to see people go from doubt to belief. And I believe that there's hope for everyone.
And I love that you can say this with such confidence, and it's the same way because we both have stories. Sure. It's like we've been trial by fire has happened for real. And that's the beauty in it all too, is that it's not just that you're saying that it's, again, I keep saying this, it's not chocolate covered broccoli. It's not, it's, you've went through hell and back, and you have had the experience to say, hey, I've been in my lowest, and I know that the faith and the hope and the love that comes from it. And I think the other thing I'm really grabbing onto is that love is not, because everybody's like, well, if that's how my spouse loves me, or if that's how my family member, love for us is patient, kind, honest, understanding, non-judgmental. Love is not this ooey gooey feeling. And actually physiologically it's oxytocin, which is trust, comparative to ooey gooey feeling, which is actually a dopamine release. It's the same thing you get from like sugars or candies or wine, or actually a lot of drugs as well. So
no doubt
it's that artificial love. So for people that wants those true soul checks and wants to have like, am I loved? How can they feel that, or how can they know that at a better rate?
Yeah, I think that, I think you go back to, there is difference in love. I think love is one of the most overused terms in the world. We love everything, right? We love that movie. I love that show. I love and we've really lost the meaning of what love really means. Love means self-sacrifice. It means I'm going to put somebody ahead of myself. And for me, that is really, it is more than that chocolate covered broccoli that you were talking about. It's, it really, to be honest with you, with a word that is so overly said, love is actually rare in our culture today. And so, because our first instinct, I believe, is not love. I think our first instinct is to be judgmental or offensive or defensive. And so, I think it takes time to to really, really, gather what it means to love and to really care for someone. And people need to be cared for right now more than ever before. And like you said, we all have stories. I have a story that I could, that I've written books about, so, I always say this, I'm not smarter than someone. I'm not better than someone. I'm one of you. I've been through the fires that all of you have been through. And I think that relatability is something that really, really, it rings true with people in the work that we're doing at WorkChaplain, is that we are really meeting people right where they're at and not expecting them to be somewhere where they're not. And we're loving them right where they're at. And that's hard to come by. And so for that reason, that's why we exist, is to really show that love, to lead with love to places like the marketplace, like places like the workplace, where people spend 90,000 hours of their lifetime. Think about that. I mean, 90,000 hours. And so we're providing that love to them, and from a very non-judgmental, non-threatening way. So, I believe that it's people need love more now than ever before.
Yes, I agree so much. And so I do want to give a pause. I see some comments coming through. Chocolate covered broccoli. Haha. Yes, that's my new thing. I got that from true love is agape love with no intent to have it returned. That's true. That's sacrifice and self-sacrifice. Megan also put, we don't say love to people enough. And that's, I have one of my friends, he lost his father. And anytime he leaves everybody, he always makes sure that he says, I love you. And at first, I was in college, I'm like, I just kind of met you, dude. You're telling me. And then I got to hear his story about it. And so I think that is something that's always resonated with me too, because I thought the love was that ooey gooey love. And I'm like, now people sees me or talk to me, I'm very open about saying, I just love people. I do. And I think it's very important.
One of the things, Emily, is that, we're not promised tomorrow. We're not. I mean, we've seen that with the tornadoes that I've went through and gone through here in Chattanooga area. We've seen that with this COVID-19. We're not promised tomorrow. So why are we leaving unsaid words out on the table? And so I believe that it's better to say too much than not say it enough. This is a great opportunity for us to really reset, recalibrate even our families, and start loving them on a greater way. Hopefully this whole thing has made us appreciate and love our families even more. Hopefully that's what's happened.
And I think that's true. It's given me more respect for my family, I would say, in the aspect of it. So Megan has a question. What books have inspired you that you would most recommend when working with organizations? Ooh, I got what do you think?
Those are great questions. I mean, there's tons of great books out there. I think I'm not going to plug my books, but those are great books. I think it just depends what style of organization it is. We've worked with a lot of different organizations, not just with WorkChaplain, but previous companies that I've started. And so I would say, there's From Good to Great is one of the best books by Jim Collins. We talk about that all the time, getting the right people on the bus. And we do that at WorkChaplain too. We have a tremendous team that we want to get the right people in the right places. And that's so important. So I think with working with organizations, I think that is very, very, very important to make sure that you get the right people, because if you don't have the right people on your team, you're not going to get very far.
That's true. And then Ashley also commented, Emily, will you link or post the names of his books? We will do that too. Jeremy, what are some of the books that you have written? Tell your story.
So my first book was called Unbroken, and I totally was not trying to get a plug.
No. That's
my first content. My first book was called Unbroken: Discovering Wholeness Through the Shattered Pieces of Life. And so, we've got a lot of folks right now that are going through some really, really shattered pieces. I mean, people are losing their jobs. Loved ones have died of this pandemic. And we've seen just tragedy happen all around us over the last couple of months. So we're living at a time that there are broken pieces. And so finding wholeness through that is really the crux of that book. And that's my personal story as well, talking about me going through those difficult situations too. And so the second book is called The Ministry Mechanics, which is really a leadership book. It's very helpful it's practical for ministry leaders, but it's also practical for all leaders, no matter what industry that you're in, from more of a Christian perspective. But it's a leadership book.
Awesome. And I appreciate that. Let's say my two top recommended books is Love Does, Bob Goff.
Great book.
Great book. And then Bob Chapman, Everybody Matters, one of my top of all time, especially because how he speaks. And he took broken organizations and basically he actually discovered it at a wedding.
Yeah.
His whole thing. And he's like, it's all about love and caring for the people. And he always says, one day I wish we had companies that said, thank God it's Monday instead of thank God it's Friday, because that they instill so much love and trust and just a community for people to come to. And he gives a step-by-step approach on it. So those two, Bob Chapman and Bob Goff, are really great recommendations for that as well.
Anything that Bob Goff writes is great. So
it's a true statement. And then he also has, if you ever can, not right now, obviously, but they do a lot of retreats too. That is very small, intimate, 50 people or less retreats for companies or organizational leaders too. That might be something of interest if you ever can, because it's about the same cost as many conferences, but you get really one-on-one in-depth work. So I would recommend that as well. So any more questions, feel free to please put them up. I have one final question for you on my end.
Sure.
Practical things. What are three practical things that people can do today to have a soul check?
That's a great question. I think we've mentioned a couple of them already. I think one is just recalibrating, taking that time alone, I believe is so important. Getting away, even if it's in a closet or a room. I know when it's kind of hard to get away. You can't go to a retreat like you were saying. You can't go to some of the hiking trails are closed. But get away alone and really reevaluate what your values are. I would also encourage, the second thing I would say would be journal and write it down. Like you've heard it many times. If it's not written down, it didn't happen, right? So there's not a good chance that you're going to follow through with your values if you don't write them down. You can say them all day long, but if they're not written down, and if you're a leader of your family or if you're in a family, I'd put them somewhere in your house so your family will know exactly where those values are and what those values are. So that's one thing that I would say. And then the other thing I would say is check on your neighbors. I know that sounds so simple, but check on your neighbors, be a good neighbor, serve people. And like we were talking about earlier, serve people and take the focus and the spotlight off of you. And that really will start to make you understand that this world is so much bigger than just me. So those are some of the things that I would do to start that checkup.
And the things I hear, it reminds me whenever I had my first son, and it's like, I never knew how much I was loved or how much I could be loved until I had my child. It's like, whoa, it's kind of that feeling of it. And it's in that self-service because it is a sacrifice. It's not just a family sacrifice, or to be married is a sacrifice in itself as well, but also the sacrifice of having children and that in service. And like it's that agape love with no intent to have it returned, and which is very unique. So I appreciate you so much for coming on. This was such a great talk, and I hope that people listening got something out of it, because I know I did. I am so grateful for you and the work that you're doing, especially in the workplace as well, because your mission is to continue to impact lives in a way that really hasn't been seen. But I'm interested to see how much more it will be seen in the future, because people matter. Love on others, because love is needed in the organizations. It's also needed in the home, and we can be a replication of that. So,
no doubt. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Hope you have an awesome and blessed day. And thank you again for everybody watching.